Count down in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Miss Zoie Golding, welcome to CamTalks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming onto my show, because it's been 10 years.
10 years.
10 years since we last saw each other.
You don't look any different.
Neither do you. And I don't know whether that's because we are all aging, slower than our parents, or maybe one day we just get to an age where it just suddenly goes. I don't know.
I'm going to say that my Zoom filter is helping out.
No, but Zoe, you're also a very physically fit person, so don't worry. I think you are going to be young forever.
Yeah, I hope so. Like Peter Pan. That's my dream.
Yeah. Well, Zoe, give us a little bit of a background. Tell my audience how we know each other.
How do we know each other? So I know Cam, as we say, from many, many years ago. He was at school and he was enticed to do some dance by his teachers. At that point, I was challenging perceptions of boys' dance and what it was all about. And I came into the school and this bundle of energy just bundled in and committed in this workshop. And then what that led to was Cam becoming part of ZoieLogic Youth Dance Company for, I don't know, 4 years?
I think it's about 4 years, and it was the best 4 years of my life. So honestly, and of course, so you started ZoieLogic. Were you 19 when you started it?
Yeah, I'd just come out of college, and I was initially set to go to dance school, but I got offered a production event job with Rock Challenge, which was an international performing arts competition. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to go learn about event management. But at the same time, I knew I wanted to make. So I just kicked it off. Was like, cool, there's not many dudes dancing. Why is that? And 20 years later, we're still here and bigger and braver and bolder.
It's funny. I've heard you talk about, working with lads. Kind of, I mean, the whole ethos of ZoieLogic was such a family thing, and we were just so happy to throw each other at each other and throw a ladder at each other. And for us, are you telling me that is male dance more favourable because of the roughy tufty sort of be able to physically throw people around, or do you think there's something else to it?
I think now, because I'm able to sort of dissect it a little bit, because at the time it was a hobby, it is a family, it was a group, we just rocked up. There was no funding, there was no outcomes. There was let's just make some stuff and get out and about. So now when I'm able to look back, the idea of it being physical is really, really attractive to guys. The idea that there's physical fitness and rigor in it is really important. The idea of creativity. Some guys don't even know they're dancing now when we do a workshop. When are we going to dance? You're like, ha!
You're already dancing.
Already dancing. But more really now, it's about the idea that people can story tell. And guys and lads can emote and connect to telling a story in a non-verbal way, which is really helpful for mental health and well-being as well. So, yeah, I think that's why it worked, because we're still a bunch of people that get together and look after each other.
I guess the thing is, one of my fondest memories, though, is literally just being kept on the straight and narrow by not by you wanting to say, Cam, stop doing that, but it's Cam, you got to get over here and do this, and just this this attitude towards what we were doing in a contemporary dance company. To be really frank, as young kids, we really didn't know awfully kind of what we were doing. We didn't know that contemporary dance wasn't really a guy's thing, and then we didn't even realize what contemporary dance was, because we'd turn up and there'd be a stack of ladders waiting for us, and we're like, we've never seen Martha Graham do this. So it was very innovative, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why now the professional work still has the same things. I love set, I love engineering, I love props, I love humans, and I love this mush that happens when you whack them all in a room. And I think that's what Fuzzy was about. It was about how can we tell a story and what can we be physical with? The risk factor, the element of risk and the element of surprise was always really cool. So yeah, the idea of one of you saying, oh, what happens if I throw someone from here to here? And you'd be like, yeah, well, just try it, shall we? The naivety.
Oh, do you remember how shit that floor was as well? Oh God.
On a concrete floor.
Oh, just scraping your toes, and it was like, socks off. Everyone socks off,
Get your socks off.
Get your socks off. But it was great though.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. You never knew what Tuesday was you never knew what was going to happen on a Tuesday. It's not education. It was creativity. It was exploration. It was making stuff together straight out. So yeah, it became a place of play and failure and not really sure if we achieved anything.
Well, I mean, you say that, Zoe, but I mean,
did.
looking at some of the other lads who are part of my generation, who've gone on to perform in the West End and to set up their own dance companies. I mean, you must be so proud of every lad that's come through the fuzzy, circuit.
Every single one of you, like there's something very special. And even now, 20 years on, like the lads now that would speak to you, you'd still have that common bond. And it's not necessarily me, it was the journey or the group or the ethos or the feel of what we did. And that's really lovely. And hopefully, when a reunion can happen, is like, whew, there's all
Mad,
these
wouldn't
people.
it? It'd be so mad. I mean, how many do you think, how many members of Fuzzy and for now ZoieLogic, how many guys in total do you think you've touched with your passion and your just energy?
Well, like directly through Fuzzy, there's probably over about 80 now.
Wow.
Indirectly through outreach work, we're at about 25,000. And
That's not a large number, is it, Zoe?
No, it's all right. And our performance work's probably at about 100,000 now.
Bloody hell.
So yeah, it spirals, but amazingly proud of those in the dance sector. But also I've got people that are now deputy head teachers, guys who run in their own plumbing businesses and electricians, and watching yourself like grow into this amazing artist. And it's all cool. It's not just the dance. It was just like, yeah, some of them are there to really want that career, but others are there because they just enjoy what it is.
Yeah, I think I just enjoyed the discipline, I guess. And I say that now, but at the time I was the least disciplined person. I got suspended from school 7 times. I remember, being in tears, just thinking that, I don't want to do school. I just want to do Fuzzy. And then the other things in my life, and it was so strange for a younger person around 14, 15 years old to be taken out of school to go on a dance tour. And then for all of the teachers in our school to recognize us as the dancers. And then, dance wasn't cool when we were sort of growing up at school. And then next thing you know, the dance studio every lunchtime, we'd all be there dancing. We'd have a crowd of people watching. And I guess you kind of brought that boys dance culture into my school, for which it never really left. Because I know that I think even your current generation, there's a couple of lads from the year below me, and so I mean, look at that, Zoe. You've just created generations.
Yeah, it just keeps going, and that's the beauty of it. It's like you just see, and you're inspired by seeing it. There's no magic. There's no mystic system. It's like just let others see it, and if they want to be a part of it, they will.
And a lot of people did want to be part of it. I mean, especially when we were touring around with, and this is, I think that what I really love about you, Zoe, is that you're a storyteller and a dance choreographer, but like mainly like you're looking at the story and you're asking yourself, what are the audience feeling if I introduce this or that or that? And so the randomness of, oh, now you have to wear a glove, and I'm like, okay, what does a glove mean? It's like, don't worry, just go touch them, and you're like, I think I get it now, and even as the dancers, we're just like working out the story as we go along. But when we perform that, and when we go to, we went to Africa, we went to some of, tell us about that.
Mind you, one of my favourite stories is Jake turning up with a giant suitcase and every sort of support drug possible, and he was ready to go somewhere new. And if I remember rightly, I think you just turned up with one rucksack, a t-shirt, and a pair of shorts.
Yeah, that was it.
And I was like, brilliant. Of course you did.
But do you remember when as soon as we touched down in Namibia, I think we were at Windhoek Airport, and there was some sort of issue with our visas or whatever it was. And next thing you know, all of our passports were being collected and taken away from us. And we just sat there like, oh, how was that?
As I'm like, this is really exciting. So I'm going to take all of these lads to Africa. Woohoo! And then we're going to take our passports away because what? We don't have a license to be here, huh? What? So yeah, I spent a few days like feeling a little bit sick.
Yeah, phoning the embassy.
Yep.
I'm British. Please help.
Hi. But obviously the faith is there, and we were working with the right organisation. It was just a miscommunication about that we were a professional company coming over to make money, and obviously we weren't. We were on a cultural exchange.
Well, I think we were just buzzing to be there, but I know that all of that weight kind of fell on your shoulders. And so, yeah, thank you for always putting yourself, you know, at the helm of this incredible organization. But the reason why we were there was because I believe it was Control Alt Shift that we had first, you know, done. I can't remember what was the name of the performance.
I remember that. You remember that? I remember the piece, but not the title. Like,
yeah, I can't remember the title, but it was about raising awareness of HIV and AIDS. And you know, the piece was lovely. It was, you know, you have a glove on, you know, you've got a little ball on the glove, and every time you touch someone else, it kind of this ricochet, almost not that, you know, different to today's coronavirus, right?
no, yeah.
The idea of spreading.
That was it. The idea was to just dispel the myth that was still being believed in Africa that you could catch HIV by touch. You know, that was the message that we were brought on the project initially with Sadler's Wells to do. So, you know, that's a very complex thing to try and explain. And you know, it's quite a complex situation to try and get it across. So these gloves with these little balls on, you know, was just showing transmission. And how I think it was Ollie, wasn't it, ended them all up with them on his pants, you know, and like how he was saying it's a sexually transmitted disease, right? So you know, how do you take a bunch of guys and talk about these issues, but not make them dumbed down or seem not thought about or thorough or considered? So I think that we approached it together really well. But
it was a wonderful performance, wasn't it? And I remember just like, you know, everyone's kind of responsible for their own costume, right? And then like it's always going to be
really. No.
It's like I remember going on stage once without the costume. I remember once when I believe I was supposed to go on stage and hold a ladder, and I think Jake or someone was supposed to jump on it, and I just wasn't there. And you was like, what's going on?
It just ran across stage. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there should have been a ladder moment. But like, that's the beauty of live performance too, right? Like, that's what's so exciting, is every time I watch Fuzzy and the professional work. I mean, the professional work has more time and more rigor and more polish, right? Then we still meet Tuesday in the same place at the same time. It hasn't changed. So you know, watching them on stage and that live moment where things go absolutely tits up and then you're watching people navigate it, you're like, well done, boys.
I do remember I think we were at Leeds Contemporary Dance School, and again, I think it's one of those situations where the wings and like the little run thing out back, it was just pitch black, it was just dark, so like everyone's legging it back and forth, and then all you hear is and then like I can't remember who it was. Someone had busted their knee or something.
Yeah, like run into something, hadn't they? I mean, that's exactly at the backstage areas. You know, they're a lot more supported now. But there was something about growing up in that like world as young dancers that we just got on with it. I think that was the thing with Fuzzy, like you're saying, it was about high quality. So the reason I was saying, Cam, get over here, like, come on now, was because I want you to look the best, be the best you can be in that time. It wasn't about egos. It was about like, there's potential here and you deserve it. So how do we make everybody shine in their little ways?
Yeah, that was it. Now. And personal artistry. I mean, you taught me about that, and you taught me about embracing what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. You know, I mean, I there's certain like moves in dance that I'll always say, oh, that's my move, because it's like probably the only thing that, if you know, when you get in a circle and you're like, right, do something, you know, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, you know, and I kind of carry that on, you know, throughout my sort of filmmaking, and you know, what I do today is you know, I love storytelling and I love, you know, these mediums, but it all goes back to just wanting to show off, or not show off, but show an idea to someone, show an idea to an audience. But audiences do tend to, I mean, they take to things differently, right? I mean, the performance that we did in Africa, we'd already toured that around the UK and done it at many dance shows. But then we find ourselves in Namibia, suddenly in the middle of what looked like just a shanty town, just an absolute just desert. And we bring a couple of speakers out, and we're all just kind of thinking, where is everybody?
Yeah, what's going on? Where are we dancing? This piece of concrete.
Like, yeah, the music starts, and then out of nowhere, just hundreds and hundreds of kids just seep out of this little town and come and watch us dance. And I can't say that they were the standard, you know, audience, right? They were just a bit in shock, and they were looking at our shoes and looking at and all of us. And I think that was a moment after we all got back in the minibus that was just so painful to kind of drive away from, because it was seeing the third world in at its worst, I guess, knowing that these kids didn't have basic water, let alone the sneakers that we're all running. And I remember feeling so bad, after, because I'd made such a fuss about putting my name Cam Bam on my Nike Airs, that when I got there, it was like, these don't matter, and they have no significance in the current place where we're at. It's
that was the beauty, especially of that trip, because I'd gone over by myself to work with the organisation and just went, I have to bring the boys here. This has to happen, and not to share anything, but just because it was just about broadening understanding, really. And it's just a bit grounding when you've got the most smiliest of kids with no shoes on, and it's just a little bit. I know that other fuzzies have still talked to me about it now. So Connor, is I know it's still there for him, like that moment of reality check as a teenager to go, okay. But it wasn't pity either. That's what's beautiful about all of you and the community. It wasn't like we feel sorry or can fix it. It was just a lovely moment of like humanness.
Yeah, and I think that like in any small groups of people, there's always drama, and even within the fuzzy family, there's lots of drama.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly all of that drama felt like it was just nothing, And I remember just sitting on that bus in silence, and everyone was silent, just like we didn't really know what to say, because I think the main thing was the fact that all these kids were so happy. They were so happy that we were there. They were smiley. They wanted to play, and so I guess putting things in perspective was that was incredible. And obviously I think that's the point, right? Is that those moments do stay with you, forever, and I'll never ever forget that. So.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I won't either, ever, ever, ever. I think it was something that was very guttural. I said, right, well, I've put it all on a credit card, so we've got to raise the money, guys, and go. Like it was almost like not too optional. If you think about those sorts of things for too long, you may never do it. So, yeah, it felt really special to go on that together. And yeah, never ever forget any of that. Really, it's one of those experiences that stays really vivid.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if it's because you're all in orange t-shirts, and all I kept constantly doing was counting orange t-shirts.
That's probably the only way that you could keep us all together. Like, it was brilliant. But this is the thing, is that now fast forward, I think it's 10 years since we did that trip. Fuzzy's still, it's now ZoieLogic. So explain to me, first of all, where the hell did the name ZoieLogic come from?
So initially it was about dance itself. So I always found that that contemporary dance to some people was like a bit fuzzy, didn't make any sense. But if you're in it and you're teaching it, or you're moving and you're making, then the whole thing makes sense. The same with lads dancing. People don't really get it, but then when you see it, you're like, oh. So there was something about the opposites of like logic and like mess. So that's where Fuzzy Logic sort of came from. I've since found out it's a washing machine as well.
Yeah, I found a few things.
Mathematical equation.
Yeah, when you type in Fuzzy Logic and you got some other people, you're like, who are you? What are you doing? What do you even sell in the world? Fuck off. Like, that's not what it is. But now, obviously, with ZoieLogic, I'm guessing that's just to bring in more people to a bigger audience, or what was the reason behind that?
It was so we didn't lose the identity of Fuzzy Logic. I've been able to build a career for myself based on the amazing work that we did as Fuzzy, and I didn't want Fuzzy to lose its power and its own identity by just going, yeah, we're all called ZoieLogic now. But I did need to differentiate between the youth world and the professional world, because it's not like I couldn't make Fuzzy Pro. Does that make sense? Otherwise Fuzzy would have gone. Yes,
of course.
So I brashly came up with ZoieLogic, because now it is definitely my logic, which still doesn't make any sense. And the idea of Fuzzy Logic was so established that it's a name that people don't forget. So ZoieLogic seemed just the next step.
I love it. And of course, as well as doing, all of these different dance tours and stuff, we also helped you out, with the Rock Challenge, I remember the attempt at world record breaking largest dance class. Where was it? It was London Bridge, right?
London, yeah. We went to the Scoop outside. Yeah, London Bridge.
And who were it wasn't Diversity. There was like another dance group that were there from... I remember that really pissed us off. So I remember we were a bit like, just because they've been on television doesn't mean they should be leading the whole bloody thing.
How dare they?
How dare they? And then you're just like, well, just go and spread yourselves out amongst that other dance group. Then I'm like, yeah, no shit, I'm going to the front.
Yeah. Excuse me, what? You want me to stand behind these people?
Move out of the
No.
way. But listen, Rock Challenge, it's absolutely huge. I mean, I'm sure a lot of these people listening are going to have heard of Rock Challenge or even participated in it. So, I mean, this is like, what, the UK's, or is it not one of the world's biggest sort of youth dance events, or is it mainly school dance?
It's performing arts competition, isn't it, for secondary schools and colleges? And sadly it's actually come to an end just last year, but hopefully something will come back. But I was in it as a kid, and that's what it was about. It was like sets and lights and costumes and storytelling ridiculously in 8 minutes. So I think because I was in that as a kid, and then I ended up working and producing and touring it and running events all over the world, like that has never left me. The fact that don't judge that young people can't nail something that is astonishing, in schools and this. So bringing that into the professional world, and people say you can't make a car spin and tip. I was like, why can't I?
But it was interesting because it was the closest thing we had to the dance culture at the time that we knew in movies. The idea of coming together and like battling or like putting out, it was a competition, right?
Yeah.
So I mean those judges, and obviously the moments when whole schools, hundreds of people had to find out that they didn't place in the top few or something, and I'm sure it got really tense for you at some points.
Yeah, it did. I think about I was there 17 years, so
wow.
There's a ridiculous amount of stories, but you don't want to disappoint, but I think it's about the energy that we brought to it. Competition is good in life. There is a positive side to it if you embrace it and your understanding or your place or your thought about it is right. So I think because we made sure that the experience was as good as it could possibly be for everybody, the winning is in come back next year and give it a go. So we didn't see many sort of dropouts or fights because they lost. It was more like, damn it, we didn't get it this year.
Back again
next year.
Actually, I absolutely loved it because we took part, part of our school, and because we were already doing ZoieLogic at the time, like we were a bit like, well, if we win, we win. If we don't win, whatever. We're just here for like the story, the dance, to meet people. But some people, who have just kind of been given a little bit of power, come and choreograph this little bit. Some people took it so goddamn seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Just was a bit scary, wasn't it?
Yeah, there were, there was the diehards, and you just be like, whew. But again, they would succeed, and it became part of people's lives, and that's what's so beautiful about it. And that's the same as what Fuzzy is, and ZoieLogic, it's a part of different people's lives in different ways. So I always remember every time there was a Fuzzy lad in like a Rock Challenge, I'd definitely go around to people and it's like, Fuzzy, they're one of the Fuzzy lads.
My boys.
Like a proud mother at the back like this. Just always proud to just see you guys sort of shine a light, regardless whether I said we're going to go and do some bag packing today to raise some dosh, or we're going to go and do this conference and we've got 4 seconds to rehearse outside of a car park, and then you're going to be on a space that's this big.
I remember those random you're like, is this even a dance audience? It's like, no, they're just here for something else, but we're the entertainment,
Yep. That's the idea. We're challenging perceptions, and if we're not seen. So I used to take any, and still do, any opportunity to like share what we're doing. And just a few months ago, the current Fuzzy Boys did the same thing at a conference. And what was amazing was all of your adaptability. You just trust me. I'd be like, just go for it. You'll be fine. Recruitment to Fuzzy is still the same. You come in, you've been to 2 rehearsals, you're on stage, and you've learned a whole role, and you're off. Like it hasn't changed, because there's something about that, like just get in there attitude that we have. So,
but of course, a lot has changed, particularly in the last few months, right? With the coronavirus, obviously, you kind of need to have contacts, in contemporary dance, particularly with ZoieLogic. And I mean, all of your choreography, Zoie, pretty much requires somebody jumping on someone or someone like touching someone. So how have you, first of all, how have you been coping in lockdown? and then what's kind of your vision now for remote dance? I know that I saw.
Yes, no, I'm a big. I've got huge skills on remote dancing. It's a skill I can now put on my CV. Remote teaching.
All done through Zoom, though, right?
Yeah. So my main objective was to keep the fuzzy boys feeling that they belong somewhere, and to keep an energy up for them. And I didn't really know what that was, but we started the very first week of lockdown straight away. I think it was a Monday and Tuesday. I was like, right, boys, get Zoom. Here we go. Just let's see what this is. And that's what we've been doing weekly, every week. So we've been making our own films about solidarity that they've been leading. We're doing choreography skill sessions. We're trying to take our current live, because they've been a tour, 15 gigs this year. And so they're not live. So how do we make that show online?
But how do you even try and choreograph a bunch of screens?
Right. It is absolutely mental. So we had a really lovely idea where they have a bag, and in the choreography they like throw it and they pass it around each other. So we're like, all right, how do we pass this through the Zoom boxes, right? I mean, it sounds delightful. Until like three people's internet's like slightly behind, one crashes, they go and they come back and their boxes in a different place. And so yeah, we're getting somewhere.
Slowly but surely. But I mean, at least you're doing it. So you've always been the most proactive person that I've known. It's not, oh, should we talk about an idea? It's let's just go and do it, right? So where do you think how do you think the next 6 months is going to be for you and the current lads?
So we can't wait to sort of all get back together. Really, that's the main thing. Like saying goodbye every week is really sad. All their little faces are like, bye. But in terms of ZoieLogic, we're actually going to be we've got an outdoor work called Ride, which is on this spinning tipping car, and we're actually
that looks nuts though. You've gone slightly crazier since the ladders.
No.
Where the hell did you get a car from?
Oh, well, it was initially
spins around like 360. Like, what's going on?
And then because I wanted it to tip up, it then goes on its side, and then obviously as a byproduct, it also spins around on its side.
You're not aware of gravity, right? So
yeah, no. They bounce it.
So you've still got that performance running?
Yeah, it's still going, but we're actually about to take it into care homes to tackle loneliness and perform it outdoors in car parks. So that's one of the things we're aiming to do, to use that show, and we've raised some funding to be able to do that. And then another thing is the grid experience, where we're hoping to get massive people together to perform. So that'll be the first time that Fuzzy probably will come together in the 4.5 months. So I'm like, I want to be able to hug people again. Like, I'm struggling with the lack of that. So I don't know what's going to happen if we all like pretend to run up to each other or like weird high fives.
But also, like in schools as well, I mean, I can imagine, and I don't want to say this, but I feel like there's going to be like a lull in like artists, and I can't imagine if I was young now, and if I was at school, and Zoe was supposed to come in next week, but Corona hit. Just to think that like an entire generation of artists would have just been stopped because of something that we can't even control. So I mean, how do you think the schools are going to start opening up again to contemporary dance? Because it's the most physical type of dance ever, like in your face, right?
Yeah. It's like the hardest medium ever. The whole point is to actually like physically connect with people. That's the idea. I guess that's why I'm sort of looking at this grid experience and about increasing people's confidence to be connected again. That's one of the things that's really important at the moment, is I'm watching people not even like make eye contact. We've almost got to go back to the basic non-physical, but I'm well aware it's like a massive journey towards like hugging again.
I can already see the ideas bouncing in your mind, so like because you touch your face when ideas are like, it's like, I think something's coming.
Yeah. How do we use, like, dance is non-verbal, right? So these are skills. You need peripheral vision, you need to understand physical messages and things like that. So how do I help people heal and become safe again to be near each other? And basically probably for myself, if like I need those things as much as trying to provide them. So Yeah, I don't know about schools. I think it's just really difficult. I think the whole world and its approach and our understanding's changing. And what's the scariest thing is the one thing that unites us is physicality. It does, you know, we all have bodies that move.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I am a bit nervous about that. But I think that the art sector and the dance sector are amazingly resilient, and I think we'll find a way if we keep finding a way.
I mean, how is the art sector in the UK? Because I mean, I guess traditionally I've always seen, you know, a lack of funding in the arts world. I mean, what's happening now that Corona's come?
I think it's like there was an amazing commitment done short term to help us all out. And that was absolutely like really gifted. I think what people misunderstand or don't know really, because you wouldn't, but a lot of them are run by freelancers. Our freelance workforce is humongous. You know, the whole creative sector runs on freelance work and artists and things like that. So
and is there money available for them? Is there a big pot of gold out there?
There's bits, but I wouldn't say there's anything that's sustainable. You know, when you can't open a theatre, you can't bring those people back to work, or you can't, you know. So we're trying to think about how we can use every possible resource to like just pay artists. You know, how can we've only got little bits, but how can we do our bit? But I think it's a really scary time.
I mean, particularly because these theatres that we often performed in, we often rehearsed in them as well. You know, there was often lots of staff around that could help us and give us the facilities to use. And I mean, do you see there's a big risk of a lot of theatres closing over the next few years?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of compromises having to be made, and you know, the sector is going to, the ripple effect will be longer, I think, for venues, for theatres, for arts. I think that we're going to be trying to understand new ways to get through this. But until we can sit together, you know, until that's done safely, because it's not just about getting people into theatres now, it's about getting people out of the houses.
Yeah, which of course everyone's sat on their asses.
Yeah, well, we've got a whole new challenge. You know, it was always about, for us, creating access to dance and art so that you could say, come on, give it a go. You know, now it's like, come out here and try it. Yeah, so
I mean, and asking someone to do a barrel roll, you know, in this current climate, you're like, are they clean? You know, because you're definitely going to get an armpit full of sweat in your face, like no 100%, doubt.
100%. So we're going to be like one of the last art forms to really be able to get back to full swing. And then, you know, then I think about the workshops in schools, and our method is let's get people physical, you know, connected. It's going to be a long way off before.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's a primary school teacher, and she was saying that traditionally you're encouraged to get kids to share toys and to play with each other, and now they're having to say, don't share your toys. You're sat on opposite sides of the room. Don't touch them. And it must be so confusing for whole generations of kids throughout the age groups, you know, just knowing who they are, where their place is in the world. And I can imagine that the stress on mental health right now is just, you know, I don't even think we're going to see it until a few years' time. But you've been very active and very vocal about mental health. And I think that's something maybe, you know, when you're in Fuzzy, you don't really think about it as much because there's so much family around you. But actually, when you go off and you start to be on your own again, I mean, I remember a period of at least a year when I went to uni of just wondering where everyone was. And I just a bit like, but where, you know, what do I do? And I don't do anything, you know. So, I mean, fast forward now, I mean, you've done, what's the Head Funk? Tell me a little bit about Head Funk.
So Head Funk is a platform that we now run every year that shines a light on men's mental health issues. So I was at an event where I met a gentleman called Neil who basically said, I've always wanted to dance. I never thought, you know, I've always wanted to do it. And at that moment there, I just saw this passion in this guy who's never wanted to dance or wanted to dance, never even thought it was possible, never even thought he'd be allowed. You know, he'd come from that feeling that it's the stereotype is too much pressure. Not allowed, basically, not for me, not allowed. So he had an amazing story about his own mental health, and we told it, and we made a platform where he performed at, and we brought other groups in, and we told more stories about men's mental health issues and different approaches to it, different personal experiences, and just made a community platform that was all about them, their stories, what it's about. But with the audiences, we also got us all to think about our mental well-being, because it's not just guys, like it's all of us.
But do you think that guys struggle to talk about it more? I don't even know if that's fair to say these days.
Well, I think it comes down to like there's still there the man box, you know, the emotional resonance and emotional intelligence is like not to be done. You know, I remember watching a YouTube video, and it's when my daughter cries, I pick her up and I say, it's okay, like, don't worry, it's fine. When my son cries, come on, you'll be all right. You know, just even systemically, they're different approaches, but why can't hug and hug be the same, you know? So there's like still a whole thing about communicating and speaking and giving people a voice and the confidence. And that's what Fuzzy kind of did. It created a safe place for you all to just be you and not judge what you said or what you did. And I think that's what Head Funk is we're just creating more places for people to share.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that really attracts me to want to find out more about Head Funk is just because, you know, we had you and you were everything for us, you know, like and you've had thousands of conversations with lads about their personal issues. And without you being there as that kind of champion, you know, I'm a bit like, I don't know how young people are supposed to go and, you know, spill the beans to a teacher or to a parent. You know, you were someone that wanted to see us do the best. And so because of that, we wanted to give you the best. And so if we had issues, it was like, I remember, was it Connor once having a cigarette or something? And it was, you just had a conversation with him. You're like, why? Like, why do you feel the need to go off and do this? And you think about it, you're like, not a lot of people would want to come in and comment on a young person's behavior if they didn't believe in them 100%. You know, and you believed in all of us 100%, that you could tell if someone was in a mood, or if they came to practice, like, you know, like, let's have a chat, you know, and that just kind of feeling is something that I don't know how we're supposed to scale and how we're supposed to give every kid the ability to have someone like you in their life. It's a big challenge, right?
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and I think that it's really humble. Thank you. The same, like, my life was so much better and is so much better because all of you are in it. Like, it was a two-way thing, you know. I moved out of home really early. My parents left the country. Like, Fuzzy was my family, and so that two-way, you know, need was not reliant. But I was like, yeah, cool. There, you know, your energy. I'd have a really crap day, and I'd come in on a Tuesday, and I'd be like, I'd walk out high as kite, like, yeah, I could take over the world again. And it was like a tonic to me. So it never felt like it was actual mission to kind of fix you all. It was just, you can see it when you'd walk in the room. And I think that's the thing with lads, like the physicality. If you're not there, or something's not going right, the physicality is so obvious, and you're just like, all right, what's going on? And I guess we do have to ask hard questions sometimes. And if you're trusted, you can ask them.
Right, but I don't think that, you know, I'd say that the experience that myself and other Fuzzy boys have had is so unique, Zoe, that, like, I would love to be able to say that could happen to all kids in the UK, but it just can't. You know, I mean, what is it that made you want to come and find the next generation in schools, and your proactiveness to go in and kick in the doors you needed to? And, you know, are there others like you out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are. You know, you see the power of it. You see that, you watch a life develop and change, and people go from dark to light places. And that's why I get out of bed every day, because there's a potential that if I make that one experience happen, that diamond in the rough there's life might change. Or, you know, they may take something, like you were saying about, like, you still hold these values now. Like, there's no magic wand, but yeah, I think it's about thinking about it as a whole and not as like products or an army that you're building, or it's like we're all human beings. And because I care about humanity, I think it's like a lot of it's just intuitive, you know.
Well, you've definitely got the mothering vibe mixed with that father's sternness. It was just like, you know, everyone knew, it was like, you just don't turn up late. You don't mess around, you know, because we're all here to do something very serious. And actually, I think the story element of all of your work just transcends the piece itself. It's like, we're only here to tell you a story, you know, whether we do a flip or whether we bring in a car or ladders, it's all just to serve that one central storytelling. And I'm guessing now you've got a lot of material to think about and to work with going forwards. Is there any issues that you're thinking about sort of trivializing or putting into a piece?
We talked, the Fuzzy Boys just Tuesday actually talked about opposites. We were doing a session about, so I whacked on some crazy music, but they had to move the complete opposite to it. So heavy metal, but I don't want to see you dance like you think it is. So it was challenging what they would naturally do physically. And there's that whole thing about opposites attract, and how could they actually, like, we show various scenarios where these two things shouldn't go together, but they do. I think
is that a higher concept motif towards sort of Black Lives Matter movement, plus all of the other kind of contradictory social issues we have in the world right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be. I mean, like I said, it was a blip on Tuesday, but I think that's the next exploration, is about what is the magnets that push us like this, you know. And now I see just them all with like outfits with magnets on, repelling each other.
Guys, she's not joking here. Like genuinely, this is real. This is real talk. But and it's weird because when we were growing up, I guess like the social issues of the world did seem like huge. Whereas now actually they seem really small compared to like the current state of world leaders and like all this kind of stuff. So do you draw on these cultural these things in real life, and you try and put them into a piece?
Yeah, I think what happens now is that co-collaboration. You know, what do the boys want to say? What did we want to? You know, we always did it together. It wasn't sort of me going, right, it's this. And I think if I've matured as an artist and how I co-create with people over the years, like if the boys want to say it, we say it. You know, and it, regardless whether it looks like a picnic, it could be a statement for hierarchy. You know, it's about what's the literal interpretation, but what's the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my job then, I feel, to like support them in framing it and telling our stories together that way. So yeah, it comes very much from within. We did a piece called The Beast, which was all about the angry darkness that we have to face, and how it can take over us. And they were pretending to be in tunnels with lights, and a red light would catch them and they'd have to deal with the struggle. And that was from them. They said how they sometimes just really struggle with identity. What's a dude meant to be? What's my career? You know, trying to work it all out at 13. It's a lot of responsibility.
It is, but there's something nice about, you know, when you start dancing at a young age, you're already taking yourself more seriously than most people. You know, so you're already starting to ask those sort of bigger questions about your life. And so kind of after seeing like 80 odd lads, come through, I mean, I can imagine that they're all doing all sorts of different things, but is there anyone that you really thought that, you know, from the first time you met them, that they were going to be doing X and now they're doing X?
I think the most potent one was James Cousins.
Of course. He got our generation. You know, I remember when you brought the guys into our school and we saw them, it was like they were incredible to watch, right?
Yeah. And there was something about James that you just knew there was that like beautiful stardom to him, like the energy that he walked in with, and the way the core of who he was, and the talent and skill he had to make and perform. I was kind of like, he was someone very early on. You kind of, same as Luke Brown, you know, when he started and finding his way through what his physicality was and his own signature, which is really strong now. All of you really, you never know which. There's always some people that always really surprise you as well, that you don't think are going to pick dance, and then suddenly go, I'm going to dance, I'm going to study it, and you're like, oh, really? Like, no, I thought you were going into I remember chatting to one fuzzy about, do I do law or dance?
What an ultimatum.
That was Chris got law or dance, you know.
Oh, that's brilliant, isn't it? Because Chris could have done anything.
and to have those conversations.
And he's now the monkey in Wicked, right?
Guy, he's awesome. I mean, he's
Jesus,
like top level. So yeah, it's fascinating actually. Like,
actually, that's a really good point, because I feel like, you know, you probably gave a blueprint to many people to go and build on. You know, that they kind of knew how to run their own dance workshops. They knew how to get people straight into it, and all those personal styles that developed. I mean, they are all personal. Like, I can't say that, you know, Luke or Chris or James, they've all got such different ways of interpreting the world, but it all comes back to the same ethos of storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And more importantly, I think that your musicality you bring music that others maybe wouldn't listen to or wouldn't imagine being in a dance. And so I was always very amazed that you'd kind of put in these little tiny sounds, and that would become like one of it would be in my head, I got to be there at this sound. And I'm like, where the hell does she get these sounds from? And you see on a little laptop, like, doo, 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 some noise here and little phone ringing here and all that. I mean, that must have been quite fun, because I can't imagine technology was that advanced back then.
Absolutely not. I remember we did a piece that was about sport, and we had a way back, like the first or second piece. And I needed like football commentators' voices. And I remember running with like a weird dictaphone to the TV and like clicking the TV and like recording it, and then running to the laptop and trying to download it and then trying to edit it. I mean, now you just take it off YouTube, and you just
so easy.
So yeah, I think also that's what I really enjoyed, is I used to enjoy making the sound and coming up with the sets and the props, and I would be there sewing things and painting stuff, so that we had it. And the wonderful Paul Milford, who used to bring all of our crazy ideas to life, as a Fuzzy member, he was just so resourceful. But yeah, it was really fun. But it was. I remember, like, there's some Fuzzy pieces with my voice in, trying with a different accent. Yeah,
because it's almost like acting, isn't it? In a way, it really is. You can't just dance really well. Like, you have to believe the story, and that's what really I loved about it, was that halfway through a performance, you're almost angry at that person because you're supposed to be angry at a person, and you're not just like jumping at them because that's what the move is. You just want to kill them. And you're like,
the intention.
Yeah, the intention and that motivation that you always gave us, like, you're doing that, and it was kind of like, I mean, because I've had experience in like the army cadets and in the military, and you do get this sense of command, and as long as you know what the commander wants, then you're all kind of doing the same thing, and that's what you're incredibly good at. You're incredibly good at keeping people on task at what they're doing, so much so to the point where I remember when we used to get a little bit of freedom, where we'd like, oh, we would be in London, and we're like, what should we do? Let's run away somewhere. Let's just run around the block a few times, and but we'd always be back at this time. You're like, guys, you need to be back at this time, and we'd go and do it. And I remember once when we were trying to get ladders on the London Underground.
Oh yeah.
These guys like, you can't take these ladders on the London Underground. We're like, oh,
why can't
guys, I? Go, everyone run. Yeah. Absolute adventures.
I think that's it. Like, there was no rule book. Like, there was no governing body. There was just us. So it's like, yeah, why can't I take them on the tube? Oh, what do you mean I have to drive a minibus? Okay, I drive a minibus. Get in the bus, guys. I didn't. That was the beauty of growing up with Fuzzy. I grew up with it, and still do. So yeah, the stories are endless about. When you look at them now, you just go, oh God, really? I mean, where's your common sense there?
Yeah, common sense isn't that common anyway. But look, I mean, like, as well as obviously Fuzzy, like, you've got so many things that are happening. What else is going on apart from the wonderful boys in your life?
So Fuzzy Lads, there's the ZoieLogic team. I've got an amazing team of full-time members now as well.
Wow.
So I've got an executive director, Vicky. She's just, hold my hand. She's the I'm the grey area, and she's like, no, these are the rules. And I go, yeah, but can we? And she's amazing at like looking after the company and all of us. Lizanne, who's a project coordinator, she's now been made head of engagement. So she is a bit of a kindred spirit. She looks at how all our projects interact with people. Hannah, who was a producer who's just leaving us now, but she's been amazing at helping me make the shows and all of that side. But the most one is Matt, who's a digital designer. He creates the worlds with me, so everything that you see about us is really from the heart of me and him trying to work out what the message is, not just marketing. But
yeah, but I mean, that's something that we didn't have to worry about back then. Marketing.
It's my job now. It's like Fuzzy was like my life, and then it kind of became this, and now I'm like beholden for people's lives, livelihoods, but and all these big policy meetings and council meetings and funding meetings. But you can guarantee, like on a Tuesday, I'm still in the same room.
Yeah. But that's because, you know, your consistency is great. So, I mean, like, if there was one person in the UK that you need to talk to about dance, it'd be ZoieLogic. Right? At this point, like, there's no doubt that you've led male dance to a point where, you know, honestly, I don't think people really realised what we were doing at the time, but it's now so much more popular. Male dancing is cool. You know, I freak out every time one of my friends says that a mate of theirs is a male dancer. I'm like, oh, do they know Zoie? And actually, loads of people know you, Zoe. I'm in a warehouse community with about 300 people, of which some of them are dancers. Some of them know you. Some of them know Lukey. Some of them know Scotty. Like, and you're just like, yeah, it's just crazy the amount of people that kind of come to you for this dance. In fact, was it Zumba that first came to you and asked if you could provide some dancers? I remember we were at some Sadler's Wells or something. I can't remember where it was. Suddenly it was like, right, lads, you're doing Zumba.
Oh yeah. So then obviously
Like,
we'd go to the like Youth Dance England events where you'd turn up and you'd get like loads of different experiences of different styles, and we turn up like the raggy dolls. Like everyone's like, what style are they? What are they doing? Like no one. Again, it was about individuality. I didn't want to turn you into movement robots. You were all individuals, and you will try something the way you will try it, which is why we didn't do loads and loads and loads of unison, like bang on like street dance, because that wasn't our thing. So yeah, we'd rock up and then I'd be like, right, you're doing cat up now, everyone. And you'd be like, what? I'm like, yep, just get in the room. go and do that, fine. You know, you're doing African dance now, everyone. Yep, awesome. And that's what was special about those times, is you guys, everybody, and they still do it now. Fuzz is like, cool. But not only that, they would do it to like the best of the ability, and the respect that they had for not letting themselves or me down. Mm-hmm. You know, really giving their all the time, all of you. It was just such a pleasure to just leaders coming up to me saying, oh my God, they're so lovely. I'm like, yeah, they're cool.
I think we had that really, you know, lovely, fun vibe, because we did feel like we were special. We felt different. We felt like, you know, even like doing the other classes, and you'd always see like Scotty doing some crazy ballet, and you're like, dude, I didn't know you could do that. It's only been like 4 years, but like, you know, it was amazing to just kind of like not be jealous or not be like annoyed that I couldn't get it right, because we were all individuals, and that's something that I can imagine, you know, everyone that's come through, you know, Fuzzy and you know, and the current cohort are just so full of that. I wouldn't even say independence. I think independence is a bit of a bad word. I think there's something about depending on your team, your family, that I think it gets overlooked often. Like, I don't like the idea that everyone should be independent, because I just see lonely people sat with their own problems in their own heads.
Yeah.
And there's something nice about having dependency of a group of people that I could never imagine, where if I have kids one day, Zoe, I'm going to have to track you down. I'm like, no, little Cam needs fucking... is annoying.
That's the thing now, is I feel like there's so many lads out there with kids and things like that as well. It's so beautiful to watch them now become dads and parents and husbands and boyfriends, and you know, because the only thing is you will send that message down. You know, the perception you have of dance will stay with you. So, you know, in that bigger mission, the ripple effect, the more we reach, the more chance we have of changing the systemic issues around it. So
Zoe, I love your attitude towards life. Honestly, it's so refreshing to speak to you again. So where can we find out more about ZoieLogic, and you know, how can we keep in touch with you?
So we have a website, ZoieLogic.co.uk. There's a Twitter account at ZoieLogic. I believe we're on Insta, and I think that's the main ones. I did that really well, and Matt's going to be very proud of me, and Rowena, who does comms. Yes. So yeah, check us out on there. We're doing loads of interactive stuff online at the moment, and just trying to share connectivity with people.
Absolutely love it. Well, look, Zoe, thank you so much for joining me on the CamTalks show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's amazing to see your face.
We'll not leave it 10 years next time.
No, not 10 years.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you, Zoe. That's it. I just want to give you a big hug.
I know. I want to do this.
A hug. Yeah.
Like, hey.
Oh gosh.
How you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? And now that now that we're remote, suddenly people are engaging more. I mean, I speak to so many people using Zoom that I never would have kind of spoken to before. So certainly, if you need any help with sort of editing stuff or Zoom style stuff, I make remote video podcasts for brands.
Yeah, been watching.
So
That's great.
yeah, so it's a good little money maker, to be honest with you, because the cost of production is zero, and we charge a lot of money every month just to do these for people. So yeah, more than happy to get involved in whatever you need. So
Thank you. It's so great to watch you do so well. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. Not only what you're doing, but the way you're doing it. Where you're living, the choices you've made. Like,
yeah,
it's just really, really you.
well, you know what it is that so after Fuzzy, I kind of I was so into the Army cadets and I was so wanting to go into the Army. That I went up to Manchester University, spent my first year with the Officer Training Corps, realised they were all a bunch of toffs, and they weren't Fuzzy family, they weren't my Army cadet family. These people didn't really understand what being a family was about, and I remember distinctly just saying, after going to like a training camp and seeing people abusing each other in their own squad, I was like, I can't join a big gang of people like that. I also dropped some acid as well, which was the fucking eye opener in my life. I went to my first rave with Jack
Nice.
when I was 18. Jack was like, "Come on, mate, come on." I'm like, "London, man, I know how to do this." And then he's like, "Yeah, try this." I'm like, "What's this?" Whoa!
Whoa.
Is this what Zoie sees everywhere?
Yeah, I don't have to pay for mine.
Yeah, it's just on tap. But yeah, so obviously things change, and but the one thing that hasn't changed is that sense of camaraderie and actually just the ability to say, like, guys, we're not going anywhere until this is done. I find it fascinating that a lot of people our age or even younger are kind of faced with this snowflake sort of generational. No one can be angry at me, no one can shout at me, no one. Yeah, and I'm a bit like, have you ever done anything good?
Yeah.
Kind of requires that, and I think we kind of lost that in a generation. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of spoon feeding that happens, and there's a lot of the way social media has impacted the way people grow up. It's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
And it's, I used to teach about people getting a diary. By the way, I still have to now teach everyone to get a diary. Like, guys,
the big old diary. I
could
love
you
that.
please take responsibility for your own shit? Parents are still telling me what they're available for, and I'm like, you're 16 now.
You could do it. But when you made us buy diaries, and we genuinely use these diaries. Like, it's so funny going into school with my teachers being shocked that I have such a full diary. They're like, "But Cameron, you're not attending any of these classes, so how are you so busy?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's okay, But how has it now evolved? I mean, has everyone got diaries on their phones now? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, we communicate through Facebook, right? And that's our main mode of communication. We've got WhatsApp, which is quite cool, but the group at the moment are just gorgeous. They're so well behaved. Like, I'm almost the least behaved. It's like I don't have to say, like, be quiet all the time, or like, what are you doing climbing that wall? Could you please leave that curtain alone? And no, don't jump off that box.
Oh, well, it's no fun then, Zoe.
They in a totally different way. And I think that's because
I'm sure you get more done.
Yeah, they know why they're there. There was, like, before we weren't really sure. We were just like, but they're just so beautiful.
But I think that's got something to do with, like, looking back, because I think when you look back, I remember Aaron and James, like, they were our inspirations to wanting to join. And then when we came into the company, there was like Luke and Chris, and again they were like our sort of people we wanted to be like. And then you had our generation, me, Jack, and Ollie. And then
crazy
younger guys in Toynbee were then looking up to us. Then they joined, and they become really fucking good.
You're like, wait, stop it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're gonna join for like a year or something, and then we're just gonna fly away. And it's like, no, they're still there. But that's amazing, though, isn't it? And like, yeah, I can't thank
it's
you
really
enough
cool.
for what you've done. Yeah, for
You're
me.
so welcome. Like, back twofold. It's not. Yeah, the thanks isn't needed. It just my life would never ever be what it is without it all. So yeah, I'm so pleased that it's still going. And like, obviously now the age gap is totally different. So I used to be a lot closer to you guys, whereas now I'm like an old lady. Like owning up when I know I'm not done with the kids. I'm like, sorry guys, I know I'm not done with the kids right now. Like, it's a totally different level of like trust and love, because I'm not, there were times when I started at 19 and the guys that started Fuzzy with me were like 17, 18, so we became friends, like life friends, whereas now it's that age.
I mean, we used to all rock up to venues like it was like a superhero team. Like we used to have like long socks on, everyone's wearing shorts, like the big orange hoodies. It was just like that picture. And do you still wear your pashmina?
Oh yeah.
That pashmina was like, if she needs to think.
No, so my signature thing is a bobble hat, and has been for like now the last, probably since ZoieLogic, but a bit before. So yeah, my thinky hat. It doesn't matter about the weather. The bobble hat's on, and it just like over my face.
And you see it. Right, guys, I got it. Wait.
Okay, here we go. Yeah.
And go again. Go again.
Yeah, and I think that's like going into the professional world. That's what's been really different, because we'd find our own way in Fuzzy, and I didn't know whether it was right or wrong, and there is no right or wrong. But when you suddenly go, you are an official artistic director now, I spent a couple of years going like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And trying to learn how to be a good one, but ultimately you just got to do it the way we do it.
yeah, that's it. But look, I mean, like, I think that you've always been an innovator in like art and technology. So I think that like what I think it's Elvis maybe that said something like, if you're doing something right, no one will understand it.
I am using that. I do. Yeah.
No one's going to understand it if
no
you're
one
doing
understands
it right.
it. And what's lovely about the Fuzzy lads is all of you would have such a trust, and then they'd be like, I don't know why she wants this. Like, I don't understand. And then all of a sudden it'd just go.
Absolutely. Do you remember? I can't remember. So there was multiple accidents that I remember like happening.
Bouncing heads and
yeah,
knees.
that's the thing. Yeah, banging into each other. And I remember doing a backflip of Jack's back once, and I think everyone was a bit surprised that I landed it, to be honest with you. I mean, we were getting ready to clean up Cam, but
no. You nailed it. Do you remember when Jack got knocked clean out by a hand or a foot in a movement sequence that just took his jaw?
I think it was Chris. I think Chris like kicked him in the face. Was it Chris or was it
someone? I just remember Jack decking it instantly.
Just like spread out.
What's going on?
Jack.
Yeah, little glass jaw.
Oh, bless him. Well, I see Jack quite a lot.
How's he doing? I haven't seen him for a little while.
He's good. Yeah, he's good. Obviously, I think when he moved to London, he was having quite a lot of pressure with being at London Contemporary, because it wasn't Fuzzy, and he had to have a year where he took a year off.
Yeah, I spoke to him about it all at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the worst thing now is the fact that he's living on his own. And he's lived on his own for quite a while now, so like it's really hard, because I kind of moved into a warehouse to be around lots and lots of people, because I need people, whereas I think Jack's, because of his family background and like the whole argument of whether he was going to be a dancer or not was brought up by his stepdad, so it's kind of always given Jack this sense of I need to be independent, and it's a bit like I just hate independence. So honestly, it kills me when I hear people say it. Because it's like the last thing people really need.
Lonely. We're not islands. We're not.
No.
We can't do things without others. And I think I remember Jack, because he came back when I was doing ZoieLogic, and I got him in for a couple of like workshop things, and I was like, okay, because he wanted to come back a bit, and I could just see there's so much talent. And then he just, again, different pressures, different lives, different things. So
That's it.
Yeah, it's just.
But he's doing photography now, which is good.
Yeah,
So
it looks great.
yeah, so he's really kind of going after the food and beverage world, and just, you know, getting small jobs every month for them. And also Yamaha, I believe he's been doing some stuff with Jamie Cullin,
Oh, nice.
doing some photography stuff there. So yeah, it's really interesting. Everyone's kind of doing different things now, but yeah, I mean, all of what we did together though is just, yeah, it's just been so inspirational. And all I'd say though is that, you know, like keep going for the stories, because the stories that you tell through dance could, you know, be immortalized in movies. You know, even your latest film, who was it with? The one I saw your interview. I watched your interview.
Oh, my Greenwich one.
Your Greenwich one, yeah, that was wonderful. But to see that noir style film happening, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Art House is definitely waiting for a collaboration with, you know, contemporary dance. Cause,
Really?
yeah, I mean, like, it's just like you get filmmakers who have a style and they think it's original. It's not as original as they thought, and they're always then just looking for what's that extra ingredient I can throw in. And I think with, like, you know, films like La La Land and stuff like that, where it's like quite obvious jumping out into jazz, you know, there is this like interest where I think people would be interested to see what would happen if a character just started dancing contemporary, yeah, mixed with this film-esque look. I remember during our days when Skins was on television, and they had that Maxi guy who was that contemporary dancer. It was so amazing to see.
So potent, and I think, you know, I love film. I part of me is really hoping to get into stunt choreography down the line.
Great.
Because the dance and movement and physicality, there's dance in film and then there's stunt, and you've got like testosterone fueled stunt choreography, you know, mix, and it doesn't gel, whereas my experience bring them together. So yeah, like I love film. I love it because it's the same thing. You have to like fine tune, don't you, like what you're saying and what's the purest way to say it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And doing like Sleuth that way, I mean, it was batshit how we had to do it. Like I couldn't really direct any choreography. I wasn't even there.
Right.
But Nico was an amazing performer who I trusted, and I knew I gave him a few words and he just nailed it as much as he could. But yeah, like working with Matt about what do we put up about dance, and what, like, my other half watched it, he's not into dance at all, and that's one of the first sort of things he's seen, and he's like, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, funny
I
that,
really
isn't
liked it. He's like, but I'm like builder like dude, and I really like that dance stuff. And he keeps saying it to me, and I go, good.
It's taken a fucking long time.
Still winning.
Yeah, still winning. Do you know what reminded me of you, Zoe? I went to go see 1917 in the cinema.
Oh my God.
And I just kept thinking, I was like, this is a fuzzy piece. Like, the camera's literally following them the whole way through, and I'm like, that's exactly what Zoe would have done. Like, she would have told the story through multiple locations and multiple actions. And
beautiful stuff. We did 360, so we did one of the fuzzy pieces in 360 filming. That was brilliant. Wow. That was brilliant. I basically spent like 6 weeks going, I can't find them. Where have they gone? Like trying to design it with Matt. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to more of that, because you have to craft the eye again, you know, where is it going? Well, if the choreography goes that way, what if people look that way? So I'd do it, and then there'd be like two lads there having a chat. I'm like, guys, you can't fucking chat, because if someone turns,
fuck off, mate.
You two are just sat there having a chat.
Have you done anything with projectors? Because I was really considering. I did a documentary of a homeless. I invited 3 homeless people into my house, and yeah, long story short, I lost one of them, and I wanted to like put their picture up around the UK. So I bought a bunch of these tiny little projectors, and with a little battery pack on it, it could last about 2 hours.
Really?
And they're so small, and they just put no SD card in, and you could like literally hide them in crevices. And I just thought, I was like, yeah, God, like sort of that visual mapping or whatever, like that's definitely something I could see. I could see you playing with.
Well, believe it or not, the project is called We Are Southampton, and it's about bringing. Of course, it's about bringing estates to life, the council estates, with stories of the people that live in the blocks of flats. So I might be ringing you, Cam, and saying, right, come on then, collab down here.
Oh, I'd love that.
Let's put installations in this flat, in this stairwell of a little girl dancing in a circle. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, no, because the only reason I got into it is because a friend of mine does this for festivals. So he does all the big festivals. His company is yeah, one of the top companies for, and they do like car commercials and all this kind of stuff. But it's just huge projectors. You know, like the real business is like obviously big projectors, big stuff. But I kept looking at his stuff and thinking, well, you could do that on a tiny little projector and just have like 10 of them, you know, in different
Yeah,
places
yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that. So it was
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get involved
Yeah, maybe we
in a
bring you down
project.
on the production meeting. Come down, sit with me and Matt. You know, we've just got some funding confirmed, so we're at like amoeba stage. We could just have a Zoom chat and go, "Watch this," because I think it'd be worth just to have your lens on it and go like, well, "Cool, this is another skill set."
Yeah,
Like,
I'd be more than happy to kind of share my knowledge and experience and
yeah, and if there's something that takes your fancy, you know, commission. What type of commission could we build, or what?
yeah, I mean, look, I spent a long time working with marketing agencies, sort of making content, and I really realized that, you know, if you're a content creator, you're now at the top of the tree in
Yeah,
terms of like you have the power to now go and do it. And so yeah, I guess like this is why all this making content is so much fun, because you know, if you can embrace this and go after it, then there's no reason why, you know, I mean, the way that they say it now is like, if you do 1,000 episodes of anything, someone's going to want to come and sponsor it. And the best thing
is that
about,
what the ratio is? 1,000?
yeah, because like if you've done 1,000 of anything, like a brand will automatically assume that is like less value, you know. So that's fact. And more important, like, let's say you're to have a podcast and you're to do it, you know, remotely or like even just with video, you only have to do 1,000 episodes before you have some sports company who wanted to come and add a pre-roll or end roll onto it.
Wow.
And with the sort of Spotify's sort of advertising system, you don't have to have adverts for 1,000 episodes, and then a sponsor could come along and say, okay, so we want to sponsor all 1,000 episodes, and then you can automatically tag in their adverts.
Yeah, see,
So
it's this commerciality that like we've got so much content and so many things to sell. And I think that now I'm quite established and we know where we're going in terms of sustainable funding, and I'm not running a funding bid every 20 seconds.
oh God, yeah.
Like, we've got long-term funding now. So it's like these sorts of discussions, which are way out of my league, you know, way out of my end. I'm like, give me a toothbrush and give me some string, right? And I'll make you something cool. I'm like Blue Peter.
That's it.
You know, whereas this new age way of like building finance and collateral and like actually getting some commercial stuff behind us would be amazing to chat a little bit more
Absolutely.
about.
Well, look, one of the secrets is virtual assistants. I don't know if you use virtual assistants at all.
No.
These are basically people based in other countries who will do whatever you need. And so our ratio is sort of for every one person we employ in the company, we have 8 virtual assistants
Wow.
to that person. So it's a bit like outsourcing jobs that you just shouldn't have to do. So like, you know, I've always been able to get my clients in the news because I've always had a virtual assistant collecting the journalist's data from that particular sector. So you pay like $100 for a list of journalists that you're like, great, and you blitz it out. Next thing they're on 10 o'clock news, you know, and you think about these sort of things and you go, well, there's a workforce outside the UK now that are ready to work for you. And you just need someone in the UK to know how to, you know, why you're going to be using them. But yeah, that may be another conversation if you ever want to know how to, you know, work the size of an agency without an agency. It's
yeah, I'd love it, because we've just taken on Rowena, who is now head of comms. She went from 2 days nothing last year to 2 days a month to now 2 days a week.
Ooh,
And
amazing. I love it.
yeah, she's in commercial marketing, but like, again, we're we're nearly 40. Do you know what I mean? There's a reality.
Yeah, I was about to say but I was like, wait, I'm nearly 30.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
yeah, great.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? You don't feel any different. I don't feel any older.
No, I don't feel it. I think you're very similar. Like, I don't really take too much too seriously. If it gets too serious, I'm not heartless or anything. I'm a bit like,
It's interesting that, Zoe. I did a personality test a couple of weeks ago, and it said that I scored in the bottom 1% of unconscientiousness. And I read about what it meant, and it was like, yeah, nothing really bothers you, but you're also most likely to be an underachiever. I was like, I could kind of see why that they would say that, but it's like
I can see
depends
the
what you want me to be
percentage
conscious about, you
what
know.
matters is the discussion, right?
Yeah,
What
because
matters.
not everything matters.
No, and in my life, like, you know, it's a constant battle with like household chores and all of that stuff.
Oh
Like, I just
God.
don't even, I don't live in squalor, but like, I will always get, what's more exciting, hanging the washing out or having a chat with someone interesting in the street? Like, I'd rather just go and walk to the bus stop.
That's it.
Or,
Yeah.
like, but there's this whole world through the last sort of 10 years. It's like, oh, this is the way we're supposed to live. I'm like, why?
Yeah. And that's really that's put me, actually. I had some mental health issues a few years ago. Like I was given such an amazing opportunity. I was working with the co-founder of Ethereum, the cryptocurrency, which the world's
right, yeah, my God,
one of the world's richest people, and kind of doing everything for this guy that I was just like, you know, it wasn't me at all, you know. And yeah, I guess going forward, like everything I now do is about just trying to. It's got to be about more than money, right? It's got to be for a reason.
Eventually,
because that's the thing is, I look back on everything we did with Fuzzy, and I'm like, but why haven't I been doing that for the last like 10 years? And it's not that it's that I needed to do, but it was I've just been chasing money, and I'm like, what the fuck have I been chasing money for? That never made me happy in the first place. So, you know, I think that's why now I've got sort of back into filmmaking a little bit, and I've got a short film that I'm in development of. So yeah, trying to come back to the arts, you know, with a bang.
It's nice when you lead it as well, because you just get autonomy over it. And I think like I was in Rock Challenge for years and years, and there's not much guidance from the Aussie dude, and you know, and that kind of thing. But whether I get it right or wrong as ZoieLogic, it's
you
something I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I can screw it up, but I just go, oh, no. I don't know. Like, there's no rule book. I take ideas and have to make them tangible. You do the same. You take a concept and you have to make it real.
There's no A to Z of that, is there?
And when I explain that to people, it's like, well, you know, if you're going to design a piece of plumbing, you already know what gap it fills. You already know what it has to look like. You probably already know what color it needs to be because it needs to match the other things. But we just go, idea.
But think really hard.
And then somehow also, before you get to the thing, have to sell it.
Yeah.
So my partner goes, I don't understand. You just literally, you just sell ideas. I was like, well, that's it.
That's it.
Hope that somebody likes a couple.
Yeah, of course. And of course, you know, I think that something I learned working with you, Zoe, is that, you know, the idea by itself isn't going to be enough. You know, it's implementing it, and you know, the ambition was so great that often it was like, wait, we have to do this for 8 minutes, and we have to be able to know this and that and that. And I think, if anything, like I've really learned how to work hard. You know, when like those nights, like Tuesday nights, as soon as we finish, it was just like a relief to kind of, you know, be able to rest. But at the same time, that adrenaline of just like, what the fuck have we just been doing? Like, just such fun memories,
isn't it? It's the graft, and like you say now, like what you're doing, it's a lifestyle, not a way to make money.
Yeah, well, I'm only just learning that. I actually moved into this warehouse because I had enough of making money, and so yeah, I think it's been about a year now that I've hardly worked, which has just been, yeah, it's been a bit mad. But I got paid in cryptocurrency, so I was quite happy to sort of trade that in when it was sort of going up. However, what goes up must come down.
So
that was actually what sort of drove me to this like really dark place where I was like a year's worth of my money got reduced to about 6 weeks worth.
Wow.
And I was so like, I didn't want to ask my parents. I didn't want to, like, you know, and yeah, it kind of, it wasn't my world. It was someone else's world.
And that's not your control either, is it? Like, someone can change your life, or something can change your life that quick.
Yeah.
You know, and you have there's nothing you can do. It's not because you were an idiot, or you spent it all, or you got a hotel with loads of strippers and threw TVs out windows. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I think that's, it's a really vulnerable place to be. Huh?
I find it strange though, because like my childhood was so active and so full, that going to uni and even, you know, up until now, like there's a part of my life that I've realized that, and it was trying to find independence. It was me saying, I don't need anyone. I can go and start my own company by myself, or I can do this by myself. And really realizing that actually, like, you need people, you need, you know, a little family, a team of workers, whoever it is. And yeah, and I've always struggled to find that when I'm trying to fit a circle in a square, and I'm trying to do business that I don't technically love, but I'm doing it for the money. And so the closest thing I could probably get to a fuzzy family is kind of my own movie sort of crew, you know, and the people that I make films with. So that's what I'm going after now. And
yeah, that's it. If the energy's right and you care enough.
well, you always cared for us, so like
yeah,
that's,
still do.
yeah,
Still
absolutely.
do. I watch you with pride. I was so happy. We have a briefing on Monday, and I said, Sue, about what we're doing in the week. And I go, so this week I'm going to be doing a podcast with one of my fuzzies, and they just were like, Psh, and Rose like, who's this? And I was like, CamTalks.
Oh God! Oh, well, I think the other boys are going to love seeing this. You know, I think this is going to come out in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, no.
I got to just edit it down to about 45 minutes. And yeah, and then I will share with you a little folder. So if you want to share it or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what will happen. Ro will be like, this is brilliant because she's just done a big press release about what Fuzzy have done in lockdown, and then it'll be like, and then here's a you know, and it helps her story, I think, for PR as well.
Amazing. So, yeah, for sure.
That's not why I said yes. I just wanted to see your face.
Oh.
But she was like, this is wonderful. I was like, yeah.
It's good, isn't it? And this is it. Like, I think now I'd like to be able to reconnect with the other fuzzy lads.
Yeah, well, it is our 20th birthday this year.
That's mad. 20 years.
ZoieLogic is 20 years old.
Oh my God.
This year. So we did have plans to do lots of cool things, but obviously that's not happening. So I think we're going to find a way just to meet up at some point.
Yeah,
just say, cool, when we're allowed, we'll go to the common, bring a beer.
That's it, yeah.
Because it's also your families, you know, like it's not just you guys as well. There's lots of families and things that you develop relationships with, and yeah, so some kind of party.
Well, my mum and dad are always asking after you. I think they were so relieved to have someone take responsibility for their son whilst they were in Alderney.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a pleasure.
Well, it was really good. Well, Zoe, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, we'll speak to each other soon. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you a shout about that collaborative meeting as well. This building.
Yes.
Just come and listen to the project, and you know, just see if there's something in there that's interesting. Might interest you. I'm happy to get involved. You know, from ideas, or if you want me to come and film some stuff, like sounds good. Perfect.
I love you, Zoe.
I love you lots. Have a lovely weekend.
Bye. See you later.